Hello and welcome to Module 4, Section W of the Better with Less course. Today we're working on your schedule. Time is perhaps our most valuable resource because it is something that we can never get more of or get back. With that in mind, we will go through several schedule swaps that you could consider and reflect about your schedule priorities to make sure that your use of time is aligned to what matters most to you. Let's get started. Let's get into the schedule lesson. First up, time management, something that no matter what your background is, likely plays a role in your life, and I think it's also an area a lot of us can improve. Since time is our most precious resource, are you making the most of it? Take some time to reflect about your current use of time and decide if you are happy with that or if there are some changes you'd like to make. If you aren't happy with your current use of time, there's a couple different types of adjustments we can make. And these adjustments can work for different lifestyles, so I encourage you to think about which one of these adjustments might make sense in your life. You could swap one activity or task for another, which will allow you to prioritize the activities or tasks that are most important to you and make space for them in your schedule. You could also reduce the amount of time spent on certain activities or tasks. So if there is something that's not really yielding you as many benefits, but you still find some enjoyment with it, maybe you reduce the time. Let's say if it's something you're doing for an hour each day, maybe consider reducing that to a half hour each day. You can still do it, but it just is a shorter time period and therefore not taking up as much of your life. You also, in some cases, could consider removing certain activities or tasks from your schedule completely. And this is really a way we can apply a minimalist perspective to our schedule by essentially decluttering our schedule, just like we would remove items that don't add value, doing the same thing for different to-do list items or types of tasks and activities that just quite frankly aren't providing the value they should be if we're spending that much time doing them. Now, what makes the cut for this? How does your current use of time compare to your optimal schedule? This is an essential question for us to figure out. And to figure this out, I would encourage you to reflect about your current use of time, how you're actually spending your time, as well as your ideal use of time, and then noticing the difference. And the homework for this week is going to also help you do that. But when we identify the difference, that is a very clear action step for us to take. How do I bridge the gap between this actual schedule or actual use of time and ideally what I'd like it to be? It's also very important that we make schedule choices that are meaningful to you without worrying about the repercussions or opinions of others. Above all, we must prioritize our own needs and invest in ourselves before we are able to help others and be what others want or need us to be. And this should not be a surprise, but just like any other change you're making, it's so much better to start small and not completely overwhelm yourself. So even though we're going to be talking about many different ideas here for schedule changes you can make, let's start with one or two changes and then perfect those and have them become routine before we even worry or think about adding more. So let's get into some ideas. Of course, the sky is the limit. You can really come up with any different schedule swaps that you'd like, but I'm going to provide you some examples of 8 different topics today that you could think about and see if these examples could apply, or maybe these examples, hearing them, will trigger some thoughts about another change you could make that would be meaningful. First up, how could you maximize sleep? Could you reduce the number of steps that you have in your morning or evening routine? Could you set some sort of cutoff time that you have to be in the bed by? Could you avoid screen time at either end of waking up or right before going to bed to help get better sleep? Those could all be helpful ideas. Maybe exercise is a priority. Maybe you focus on small pieces of time that you currently have, finding those 5 minutes here and there and figuring out something you can do that's more active. Maybe you can focus on standing up more during your day rather than just staying seated. Maybe there's simple little exercises you can do, or just different habits to get into, such as taking the stairs or doing an extra lap, around the office or around part of your house as you're going to go do a chore or something like that, just to get a little bit more movement incorporated. Maybe a question is how you could spend more time with loved ones. Maybe you focus on shutting off after work so that you can focus on family time. Maybe you try to spend a few minutes to connect with your loved ones whenever possible, or whenever there are those random pockets of time, to prioritize connection over entertainment. Maybe you try to reach out to at least one person every day, and maybe this is a different person each day than who you talked to the day before, just to help you nurture these relationships. You might be trying to eat healthier. I know we've talked about the core meal lesson earlier on, which could definitely apply to this topic, but maybe you're making a double batch of some sort of dinner you're making, so you can do some moderate meal prep there in the future. Maybe you want to have convenience play a role here and have fruits or vegetables chopped and ready to go so you can use them in cooking or for snacks. And maybe you pack some healthy foods with you to prevent you from relying too much on meals out or other less nutritious, more processed items when you're on the go. Maybe you're looking to spend less time working at home. Maybe you can adjust your schedule so you get done and prioritize the more critical work tasks while you're at work so you don't have to bring them home with you later. Another tip is if you find yourself to be more efficient working on work tasks while you are at work rather than at home, maybe you prioritize getting those tasks done first, because if I spend a little extra time, let's say 15 minutes extra today to knock out this task while I'm here at work, then I can just go home and not even think about it at all and save me much more time than if I tried to work on it at home but just wasn't feeling as focused. Maybe you want to just practice being more present on a daily basis. In this case, maybe it's best to not try to reach for the phone whenever there's an extra moment in the day and focus maybe on the 5 senses. Listen more to people when you are interacting with them, so you're being able to be present in the conversation. Maybe you feel like you're not having enough fun in your life and you're prioritizing more of the responsibilities over what makes you most excited. This is a great opportunity for a swap, to switch out a task that's a little bit less exciting with one that you often push off, that's the fun task. Maybe let's rotate those around. You can also start small, schedule 5 minutes for a fun activity, and hold yourself to that, but allow yourself to go over the 5 minutes once you get started. We might have resistance to starting a task, even if it's a fun activity, but once we've begun, it's much more fun to continue and we'll get much more enjoyment out of it. And of course, maybe you want to just have more time to relax and do nothing. In this case, let's slow things down, postpone non-essential to-do list tasks, and take pockets of time where you might try to work to just simply be or simply relax. And again, these are just 8 different examples of ways that you can make some adjustments within your schedule and find more value, but truly anything goes. Just reflect about your own preferences and your own needs, your own adjustments that work, and give those a try one at a time. As I mentioned earlier in the homework lesson, there's a chance for you to reflect about your current schedule versus your ideal schedule, and I highly recommend that to help you identify where the changes need to be made. And as always, keep up the great work. We are getting so close to the end here, and I will see you in the next lesson.